Every dairy farmer should aim at a herd producing a full economic yield of milk. He can only get the best results by selecting his livestock carefully in the first place. He must then adopt a well-thought-out plan for breeding and rearing, and he must keep up a high standard of hygienic farm management. The herd must be made up of cattle selected from milking propensity and stamina, and this can best be done by having a careful breeding and rearing program. The bulls are of the same breed as the cows. They must be maintained in a thriving, healthy condition with plenty of opportunity for exercise. In selecting the bulls, attention has been given to freedom from disease. They must be sound in wind and limb, whether they be young or old, proven bulls with many high milkers to their credit. When a calf is born, for the first 3 or 4 days at least, it should be allowed to take its mother's milk, colostrum, provided she's healthy, and before she goes back to the milking herd. The young calves are kept in calf pens for the first 3 months of their lives. This ensures that each calf gets its share of food. It also helps to keep up a high standard of cleanliness and reduces the chances of infection. For the next 3 or 4 months, the calves are kept in a yard where they can get plenty of fresh air and sunshine and also shelter from bad weather. Muck, produced in a straw yard, is a valuable fertilizer for the land. Plenty of hay should be accessible where it can't be soiled. When they reach the age of 6 to 8 months, the calves, if born in autumn or winter, are put out to pasture. It's desirable to have a good supply of fresh water in all fields on which cattle are grazed. In fact, an adequate water supply is of the utmost importance in all branches of dairy farming. When in calf, the heifers are kept away from the yearlings and dairy herd until they have calved, when they can take their place in the milking herd. It's only by paying attention to the choice of sire and dam, and by selection through the records of their ancestors, that the milking qualities of the herd can be kept up and improved. A good dairy herd must be treated properly. Good milk can easily be spoiled unless cowsheds, cows, and utensils are clean. This cowshed, with stalls, passages, drips, and impervious floors, its clean white walls and plenty of light and air, may be beyond the reach of many farmers, but it's an example of what can be done. Adjustable air inlets and a suitable roof outlet ensure proper ventilation. Thorough cleanliness must be observed at all times. Utensils such as milking pails must be properly washed and then sterilized. Proper sterilization of churns is equally important, so that the milk reaches the market in first-class condition. Of course, the sterilizing room should not open directly into the cowshed. The use of the strip cup is valuable in diagnosing the early symptoms of mastitis, and all dairymen should make this test before milking. For all washings, the correct proportion of disinfectant must be mixed with the water. All udder cloths must be properly sterilized. After a final wiping with a clean udder cloth, the cows are ready for milking. Provided adequate hygienic precautions are taken, hand milking is as efficient as machine milking. Covered pails help to keep out the dirt. After immediate cooling, the milk is run off into sterilized churns for market. To keep the milk in good condition while awaiting collection, the platform should be in a cool and shady place. Unfortunately, not everyone realizes this. Farmer Green dumps his milk on a ramshackle old platform in the full heat of the sun. He's worried. He knows that all is not well on his farm. His herd is as large as his neighbors, but as he sees from the number of churns put out, his milk yield is only about half theirs. Farmer Green has been all his life on this farm, and he's accepted its dirty condition as the usual thing. But he can't help contrasting his own farm with his neighbor's, and he realizes that something must be done. Why, his cowmen still stick to the filthy old practice of wet milking. Like many others, Green hasn't thought much about the health of his cattle. He hasn't realized that even small things which seem of little importance help to spread disease. Dirty milking stools. And the cowman's dirty clothes are a source of contamination. His dirty hands will carry germs from cow to cow. Disease germs lurk in the dirty crevices of old wooden stalls and cracked, unwashed floors. Unless a cow's hindquarters and udder are kept scrupulously clean, she's a danger to herself and others. Hay and other food should never be left where it can be splashed by a cow making dung. Polluted cow food can be the direct cause of spreading infection. Even tool handles and door fastenings contaminated by dirty hands can be the indirect means of spreading disease from one part of the farm to another. Muck accumulating near cowsheds is a wonderful breeding ground for flies. Flies carry disease. Manure heaps should be built well away from cowsheds where cattle cannot reach them easily. They should also be away from running water, for even a trickle may carry disease germs to the next farm. These germs are carried by water from place to place and pollute the ground over which they pass. So far, Farmer Green has accepted these things as inevitable, but he's beginning to wonder if they're not the cause of some of his trouble. Needing help, he turns to the veterinary surgeon. The vet impresses on him that management and cleanliness are essential for good milk production. But he's a practical man, and he shows that there's no need to build elaborate cowsheds or to spend a lot of money. Water is vital and must be taken into account. For instance, a stagnant drinking pond, which may be further fouled by the cattle themselves, can be the cause of much spread of disease. Iona's disease, which causes wasting, is often spread in this way. It ends in incurable internal trouble, and the cow has to be slaughtered. Again, unfenced ponds and marshy land, especially if grazed by young stock, may help the spread of the liver fluke, which has a complicated life cycle. For part of their life, the parasites are carried by these snails, which breed in marshland. The grass eventually becomes infested with eggs of the liver fluke worm, and when eaten, causes the cow to waste and often die. The liver of an infected animal will be found to be pipy, and the thickened ducts or pipes harbor liver flukes. These flatworms are the cause of serious losses of cattle, especially young stock. Infected animals should be dosed, and the land treated to kill off snails. Ponds should be fenced off and ditches cleared. If rainwater is not collected and stored, it should be run off into well-kept ditches, thence into cleared streams to the flowing rivers. In this way, disease germs which the water may be carrying from infected manure, muck heaps and so on, are removed. Good feeding is equally necessary to high milk production and the health of cattle. The most important cattle food is, of course, fresh grass. But the provision of the correct amount of rich, luscious grass at the right time needs management. Pasture should not be overstocked, or the grasses will be ruined and disease may be spread. Nor should grass be allowed uncontrolled growth, as this not only lowers the feeding value of the grass, but encourages weeds. Weeds should always be destroyed. The common ragwort, so often found in the English countryside, can cause serious illness and death to cattle, particularly when grass is scarce. It should be removed wherever possible. Cattle, particularly in places where there are ticks, should not be allowed to wander in bracken, heather or forest country, or they pick up ticks which carry diseases such as redwater. Ticks gorge themselves on an animal's blood and then fall off and breed. The young ticks usually become infected from the mothers and, being hungry and active, attach themselves to other cows. Thus the disease is taken from animal to animal. For many months of the year, fresh grass is replaced by hay. After cutting and drying, the hay is stored in a rick thatched to protect it from the weather. Hay made from a good field of clover is useful because of its high protein content. Grass and other green foods can also be stored by making them into silage, a useful food in winter. Fresh green crops, such as kale and cabbage, are appetizing and rich in vitamins. They are valuable in the late autumn and early winter. Oats or other grain usually provide the chief homegrown concentrates because of their fair content of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Other valuable winter foods include roots such as mangels, swedes, and beet pulp. Although low in protein and fat, these are succulent roughages which stimulate the appetite and supply carbohydrate. Crops of beans or peas are the commonest homegrown sources of protein. A crop of homegrown linseed is another valuable concentrate well worth the growing. Cropping on the modern high-producing dairy farm needs planning so that the various foods are available for making into the balanced rations required by milking cows. Here we have a heap of crushed oats. To 4 parts of this has been added 1 part of crushed linseed, a food of medium protein but rich in oil. One part of mixed pea and bean meal is added for additional protein. Cattle cake is a useful concentrate for milk production. Though most foods contain some salts, a mineral supplement is necessary for a high milk yield. After thorough mixing, the food is fed to the cows in quantities according to their individual production. Most farmers consult their veterinary surgeon in cases of advanced illness, but many don't realize how much helpful general advice he can give, particularly on disease prevention and control. Disease germs are readily spread through a herd, and serious losses can arise through lack of knowledge or neglect. Mastitis is a common trouble and should be tackled in its early stages. It directly affects the quantity and character of the milk, producing changes varying from specks to larger clots, which may be seen by drawing the foremilk onto the black surface of the strip cup. Plenty of water and disinfectant should always be handy, so that the vet doesn't become a disease carrier himself. Germs are spread in many ways. This cow is suffering from tuberculosis. Her sputum, probably containing the disease germ, is splashed on the walls and other parts of the cowshed. The spread of these germs must be stopped. By means of tuberculin tests, the vet can help with the elimination of tuberculosis in the herd. Contagious abortion is caused by another germ, the Brucella abortus. Infected animals may contaminate pastures and farm buildings when they have an abortion, or even when they give birth to a normal calf. For the fetus and its membranes and the maternal discharges may contain disease germs. All suspected material must be got rid of immediately and with the greatest care. A good deep hole must be dug and coated with plenty of quicklime. The The abortion can then be buried after being covered with more quicklime. The spade and all other utensils which have touched the diseased fetus must, of course, be thoroughly disinfected at once and before being used for other purposes. By vaccinating the young stock, much can be done to prevent the spread of contagious abortion. All calves should be vaccinated between the ages of 4 and 8 months.